You might have noticed that your content is not performing the way that it used to. And that is not just an algorithm thing. It is a viewer behavior shift, because YouTube in 2025 is now TV. Even YouTube CEO Neil Mohan has said that more watch time is happening on television in the US than on mobile. That is a big shift. And the best way to grow on YouTube is to get your viewers to binge your content. But what makes people binge? Good characters. The reason we watch Ted Lasso or Severance or Breaking Bad is not just for the plot, it's for the people. So if you're the face of your YouTube channel, you need to start thinking of yourself as the leading character of your show. So you say, Darren, I got on YouTube because I want to start a coaching business. I don't want to be a talk show host or a soap opera star. I just want to be able to connect with potential clients. And I say that you actually have all of the story components to make yourself a compelling leading character. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use episodic storytelling, not just to get people to watch, but to invest in you. Welcome to episode 5 of Start Your Story, a series where I break down the foundations of episodic storytelling so you can build a binge-worthy brand. Hi, I'm Darren. I am a Writers Guild Award-winning creator and producer who got her start right here on YouTube and then built a 6-figure content business. And now I want to help creators and coaches and entrepreneurs become strategic storytellers. Because YouTube in 2025 is all about building brands that people want to binge. And you can do that by thinking like a showrunner and building your channel like an episodic show. So what is episodic storytelling? Episodic storytelling is a repeatable content format where people can drop in at any episode or watch it as a whole. Think Law and Order. You can jump in at any episode and you can follow the plot. But you can also binge watch it, and 7 hours later, you're still on your couch, totally invested in the character journey of Olivia Benson or Elliot Stabler. And the main reason for that is that the leading characters on Law and Order are very compelling. So what do Olivia Benson and Elliot Stabler have that you need to have on your channel? What makes a compelling leading character on YouTube or TV or YouTube TV? The first thing is a strong backstory. A backstory is all about building trust. It adds depth, it adds relatability, it adds credibility. All very important things if you want to build trust. And remember, YouTube is a 2-person scene, especially if you are trying to start a coaching business. You are actually in a 2-person scene with your viewer, who hopefully at some point will become your client, right? You're actually in a 2-person conversation with them, just like I'm in a 2-person conversation with you. So you really need to have 2 compelling leading characters. The core conflict between you and your viewer is trust. You need to earn their trust. And the best way to do that is to use your backstory. Let's look at an example from television. The show Severance and the relationship between Mark S. and Helly. So if you haven't seen Severance, Mark works for this company, very kind of questionable company, that does a procedure on some employees who elect to do this where they sever the brains of the employees so that they have work-life balance, so that when they're physically in the office, they have no recollection of what happens in the outside world. And when they're outside the office physically, they have no recollection of what happened in the office. Now, I have no idea why anybody would allow their boss to cut into their brain. You have to kind of suspend disbelief on that plot point. Because it is actually a very good show. But anyway, Mark learns that his boss has not shown up for work. He does not know why, because he has no recollection of things that happen outside the office. So he has no idea why his boss hasn't shown up, but suddenly he is now the boss. He has now been promoted. And his job now is to help the new employee on her first day. This is Helly. Helly has just had the severance procedure, so she's waking up and has no idea who she is really. And Mark has to get her to trust him. And the way that he gets her to trust him is by sharing his backstory, right? He's been through this too. He had the same reactions. He had the same questions, but look at him now. He's really happy. He's actually the boss now, right? So he's doing pretty well. So the conflict between these two is that Helly is actually very stubborn, and it takes a lot for her to actually trust him. In fact, I don't think she really trusts him until a couple of episodes into the series, right? It's this constant battle where she's trying to escape, right? I use this example because it is a very good parallel for the creator and the relationship with the viewer, because just like Helly, the viewer is constantly looking for ways to escape your content, right? They are a second away from clicking off, right? They're a second away from you losing them. So you have to constantly try to build that trust. And the best way to do that is to use your backstory like Mark does with Helly. Now, if you don't have a backstory, you're in luck. I have a video on this channel that lays out a 5-part framework for coming up with your backstory. I will link that video in my description. It comes with a free worksheet where you can type in your answers as you're watching the video. You can grab the worksheet and the video link in my video description. You can also grab it by joining my free community on School. There is a lot of free templates and tools and a whole arsenal of videos and a really, really great and active community of creators that are really passionate about storytelling. So I would invite you to check that out. The next thing you need to be a compelling leading character is a very clear motivation. This is the way that people connect to you. And if you are having a problem with audience engagement, audience connection, audience retention, then you may need to look at your motivation. Because if you're not clear about your motivation for creating this channel, for creating your coaching business, for wanting to help this person, then your viewer is also not going to be clear about it, and then they're not going to connect to you. If you don't have a strong enough motivation, then your content is probably falling flat. So you need to do some work to figure out why you are doing what you're doing. In terms of motivation, there are 2 types of goals. There are external goals, which is what you want, and there are internal goals, which is what you need. You also have your viewer who has their own goals, right? They have their own external goals and their own internal goals. And that's what makes the 2-person scene between you very interesting, because you're both coming with your own motivation and your own set of goals. So you want to try to match why you want to help your viewer with what they need. Let's look at a television example. Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso has been hired to be a soccer coach. He actually is not qualified to be a soccer coach, which is actually the conflict of the show in the beginning. The woman that now owns the team has hired him because he is not qualified and she doesn't want the team to be successful. He has the same problem you have, right? He's got to get this team to trust him, right? And they don't trust him because he's all about dad jokes and corny stuff, right? It's not their vibe. But here's where motivation comes in. Ted Lasso is going through a divorce, right? It has shattered his world, and he needs this team to be successful. He needs to win over this team and make this team successful because it's filling the void in his broken heart, right? So he is not going to stop until he wins this team over. And that's the kind of motivation that makes hit shows. And that's the kind of motivation that you need to find for yourself in your content. The third thing that makes a good leading character is ongoing conflict or stakes. I've mentioned conflict a couple times already. Conflict is very, very important. Stakes are also very, very important. Urgency is very important. That's why we always have these very high stakes hooks, right? We try to hook people right from the get-go with the conflict, with the urgency, with the stakes, right? We're hooking people with the problem that we are going to help that viewer with. So you need to think about what is at risk if they don't succeed. What is at risk if you don't succeed? A good show has these stakes. So you say, I'm not creating Breaking Bad or Grey's Anatomy, I'm running a coaching business. How does this apply to me? Well, let's look at Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins is the leading character of the movie. The movie's named after her, but the hero of that movie is the father. So the father really is your viewer, and you, my friend, are Mary Poppins. Isn't that nice? I would love to be Mary Poppins, so hopefully you would too. Just like your viewer, the father in Mary Poppins has a lot of problems, right? He's really work focused. He thinks that being a parent is all about being a disciplinarian, right? She shows up and she's got to get this dude to change, right? That's what she's there to do. Much of the movie is about her gaining trust, right? She does all these magical, cool things to try to gain the trust of the kids, of the mom, of the father. It's all about gaining trust. The interesting thing about Mary Poppins is I don't even think we know her backstory. I don't remember a backstory. Maybe there is a backstory. Someone comment below if Mary Poppins has a backstory. I also think we don't know her personal motivation, but I could be wrong. Again, comment below if I'm missing something. It's been a little bit since I watched Mary Poppins. But what we do know is the stakes, right? The stakes are very high because if she does not help this father, this family is going to fall apart. Those are extremely high stakes, and those are the kinds of stakes that you are looking for in your content. So how can you bring those stakes and ongoing conflict into your channel? Well, the easiest way to do that is to pick from one of these 4 channel narratives that work really well on YouTube. The first being in a life transition. This content always performs really well on YouTube because people come to YouTube to learn from regular people, to learn from people that have gone through what they're going through. This type of content is really about sharing your journey so that someone else that's maybe a little earlier in their journey can learn from your experience. Another type of channel narrative that works really well on YouTube is battling an antagonist. And that antagonist could be something like layoffs. Maybe you're someone who has been laid off, or you're in the process of being laid off, or you're at risk of being laid off. And the person that's going to watch your content is someone that is either going through that as well, or they're at risk of going through that. And they're looking for tips on how they can adjust to life during this experience, right? So the antagonist is the economy, the job market. Maybe you aren't personally going through it. Maybe you're a recruiter or you work in HR and you can provide your experience from that lens. But the connection there is the shared experience with this antagonist. The conflict is about overcoming this antagonist. And this kind of content is usually the content that makes me cry. It is very powerful. It is really about resilience. And so it makes for incredibly powerful storytelling. The third type of channel narrative that works really well is solving a mystery. It could be an actual mystery. Mystery podcasts have been very popular for a reason, but it could also be the mystery of monetization. It could be the mystery of how to use AI. What it involves, however, is a curiosity and a passion for a specific topic, and a person that is willing to do research and deep dives. This is a great channel narrative if you're someone that doesn't really want to be sharing your personal life on your YouTube channel, but you have a real curiosity and a passion for something, so that the tension on the channel really becomes about your curiosity and your passion as opposed to whatever is going on in your personal life. And the last channel narrative is being on a mission. It is a great channel narrative. The main challenge on this channel is that the conflict, or the active conflict on this channel, is really your viewers, because typically you've already been through the conflict and that's why you're looking to help somebody else. So your conflict is really more in your backstory as opposed to your personal journey or your personal transformation in that particular moment. This is a channel narrative that works really well if you are interested in being a podcaster and you are interested in doing interviews and you have a real passion for other people's stories and you really want to provide that platform for other people's stories. The next thing that makes a good leading character is a unique voice or a unique style. This is where your quirks and your vulnerabilities and your personal style come into play. This is what makes you stand out from a sea of other creators here on YouTube. This is really why people are going to click on your video, because they want your perspective. They're interested in what you have to say. YouTube is not about being perfect, which is really hard for me because I'm a perfectionist. I am still in progress learning that or accepting that, but it is really not about being perfect. It's about being authentic and being you. So you want to make sure that you're showing who you are. What makes you human? What do you struggle with? It's okay to share that. I just did a video recently where I talked about how I'm trying to tackle burnout as a creator, which a lot of us struggle with, and I shared that I suffer from anxiety, right? So that's me sharing something vulnerable about myself. Those are the kinds of things that you want to try to weave into your channel if you're comfortable with it. A little vulnerability goes a long way in creating a character that feels complex and interesting and has depth. The more you feel real and lived in, the more your viewers will want to root for you. If you have a unique personal style, show it. If you live in a unique personal landscape, show it. These are the things that make you magnetic. When we see Ted Lasso, we know it's Ted Lasso because he's got Jason Sudeikis has the mustache, right? So, and he's usually in, kind of corny little sports clothes, right? So we know he's Ted Lasso. There's a very specific style. Mary Poppins, very definable visual style, right? She's got her umbrella, she's got her little jacket, I don't know what you call it, right? But she's got a very specific look. She's got the bun. So don't be afraid. If you have a unique style, show it. You also want to make sure that there is growth over time. Viewers stick around to see what the characters become. Even if it's subtle, they want to witness an arc. So for creators, show your evolution, show behind the scenes moments, show your questions, show your concerns, show your process. This is what builds a long-term connection. So I hope that was helpful. If you want more help building out the show on your channel, I do offer one-on-one coaching. You can get more information about that at the link in my description. Until next time, keep creating and keep thinking like a showrunner.